lakini achana na kalume wangu.
Yaani leo sina muda kujibizana na wewe. Nitakwambia kitu kimoja tu. Mwanamke hapigani mume, hupiganiwa yeye.
Greetings in the name of the Most High Jah Rastafari. My good name is Marley Moses, the positive warrior, alongside...
Yes, sir, DJ D-Rage, the baddest. Each and every Wednesday from 10 p.m. on KBC Channel 1 TV.
Tunakuletea the biggest reggae party in 254 in a yard extra. Extra niceness of reggae music.
Extra dose of entertainment.
When the thing is nice, we
have to do it twice.
Kwa nini wewe ulimtombolea mtoto siri mapema?
Wewe mfanyakazi utamleta lini?
Kazi ya kutafuta mfanyakazi usiniachie mimi.
Mambo yangu hayaendi ninavyotaka.
Samahani. Naona tuna mgeni. Ni nani?
Naomi. Sio umekuwa ukinisumbua hapa kila wakati unataka mfanyakazi?
Greetings in the name of the Most High Jah Rastafari. My good name is Marley Moses, the positive warrior, alongside...
Yes, sir, DJ D-Rage, the baddest. Each and every Wednesday from 10 p.m. on KBC Channel 1 TV.
Tunakuletea the biggest reggae party in 254 in a yard extra. Extra niceness of reggae music.
Extra dose of entertainment.
When the thing is nice,
we have to do it twice.
.5% of the Netherlands is below sea level. This could partly explain the unpredictable changing weather patterns. The weather remains a subject of interest for anyone living or visiting the country. Kenya and the Netherlands have been trade partners for the last 60 years. Kenya boasts of being the largest supplier of flowers, particularly roses, to the Netherlands.
You see that my colleagues on the background, they are picking up trolleys. They receive the information how to distribute them and to know what flower they have to bring to which buyer. And then once the trolley is empty, they go back again and pick up a new trolley. And that process starts at 6 o'clock in the morning.
The flowers from Naivasha, which is thousands of kilometers away, are received and distributed here at the Royal Flora Holland. It is a cooperative venture that is the world's largest international trade platform for flowers and plants.
This building is as big as Vatican City in Rome, and the whole area is as big as the Principality of Monaco in the southern parts of France.
Kenya exports flowers worth nearly 50 billion shillings annually to the Netherlands for sale in Europe. The flowers, initially transported through air freight, would later see calls for a shift to sea freight. This would activate exports from the port of Mombasa to the Rotterdam Industrial Port Complex in the Netherlands, which stretches for 35 kilometers and covers 8,000 hectares of land and is highly mechanized.
The Port of Rotterdam has a lot of experience in what type of facilities, equipment you need at those container terminals, but also the cold stores that you need in able to store the produce at certain temperatures. Also the transport modalities in order to connect to the hinterland. For Port of Rotterdam, those are the consumption regions. For Kenya, it might be the production regions. So, for example, around Naivasha, around Mount Kenya, but also cross-border countries like Uganda, Rwanda. How do you connect to them?
The shift to sea freight transport has largely been necessitated by concerns on the destruction of the planet through carbon emissions and the need to cut back on the carbon footprint. To achieve this, Kenya plans to increase sea freight uptake from the current 5% to 50% by the year 2030, with the midterm goal being to 35% by the end of next year.
At this moment we are facing some problems with sea freight due to the crisis at the Red Sea, unfortunately, because that brings some opportunities for the flower business as well. And I think the most important thing is to keep on working together and looking for a solution.
The move to sea freight transport, despite various challenges such as the Red Sea crisis, is expected to significantly reduce carbon emission by up to 90%, as well as reduce transport costs. This shift will also require better investment in digitized processes and the cold chain systems. Kenya is by far the largest producer of flowers to the Netherlands. The movement of roses is not without thorns, given that it is time for the country to shift from air to sea freight movement to ensure that issues of carbon emissions are addressed. Will the country be able to make this shift to be sustainable? That remains the question. My name is Catherine Achenga, reporting for Channel 1 News in the Netherlands.
It is exactly 3 minutes past the hour. Welcome to News Check on this, the first day of the month of October 2024. A critical day in the August House as well as to health matters. First things first, in the August House, we're talking about the possible impeachment motion that is set to be tabled against the Deputy President, that is Rigathi Gachagua. And if so, if that will be tabled, we're to see who is the sponsor of this motion. And of course, it is reported that it has surpassed the 117 threshold required to make its way to the House. That is our focus on the first hour. And also a landmark ruling that was made by the High Court a few days ago in regards to the National Government Constituency Development Fund that was declared unconstitutional. What is the impact on the various 290 constituencies following that particular ruling? In the second hour, we'll be focusing on the Social Health Authority, that is SHA, given that the rollout is going to commence today on the 1st of October 2024 as envisaged by the Ministry of Health. Yesterday, they were before a parliamentary committee where they got a nod from the National Assembly's Health Committee to continue with the rollout. So far, over 2 million Kenyans have registered, and the ministry is urging, if you have not registered, you can do so. But we start off with our first conversation. We want to focus on the state of the nation. But before we dive into our conversation, let's take a look at this story that was prepared by none other than Edward Kabasa on the procedures that guides the impeachment motion of a second in command.
Kenya's Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua is a man under siege. Lawmakers are toying with the idea of hounding him out of office. Well, impeaching a deputy president in Kenya is a process guided by the Constitution of Kenya, primarily under Article 150. Let's walk through how it works. First, a member of the National Assembly must initiate the process by proposing a motion for impeachment. The grounds for this motion must be clearly stated and must fall under one of three categories: gross violation of the Constitution or any other law, the commission of a crime under national or international law, or gross misconduct. This is specified under Article 150, subsection 1A and B. Once the motion is presented, it must be supported by at least 1/3 of all members of the National Assembly. Given that there are 349 members in total, this means that at least 117 members must support the motion for it to proceed. If this threshold is met, the motion is then tabled for debate. After the debate, the National Assembly must vote on the resolution. Here, the Constitution requires a much higher threshold. At least 2/3 of all members of the National Assembly must approve the impeachment. In numbers, that means 233 members out of 349 must vote in favor of the motion for it to move forward to the Senate.
Honorable Senators, I wish to welcome you to this special sitting of the Senate.
Once it reaches the Senate, the process enters a different phase. Article 145, subsection 4, allows the Senate to form a special committee to investigate the allegations. This committee, if formed, conducts an inquiry and reports its findings back to the entire Senate.
This motion, Mr. Speaker.
Finally, the Senate debates the matter. For the Deputy President to be removed from office, at least 2/3 of all senators must support the impeachment. With 67 senators, this means that at least 45 must vote in favor of the charges. If the Senate votes to uphold the charges, then the Deputy President is removed from office immediately, as stipulated under Article 150, subsection 2. Thus, the process is quite rigorous, requiring high levels of parliamentary support at each stage to ensure that the decision to remove a deputy president is made thoughtfully and with significant backing.
Thank you, Kabasa, for that story. Now, you can clearly see that Article 150 of the Constitution is quite clear in terms of removing a second-in-command from office on the ground on physical or mental incapacity to perform his functions of the office, and on impeachment on the ground of gross violation of the provisions of the Constitution or any other law, whereas there are serious reasons to believe that the Deputy President has committed a crime under national or international law for gross misconduct. Now, that has clearly been stipulated in Article 150 of the Constitution. Now, to talk to us this morning, we'll be joined by none other than Dr. Isaac Hassan, a governance and policy expert. We'll have Sami Meli, who's already here in studio, a policy and governance expert. Edward Waswa, an advocate of the High Court, already here with us. And finally, Joseph Kagai, a Jubilee Party strategist, already also here with us. But let me start with you, Sami. What do you make of this impeachment talks?
Thank you very much. First, today is a day, International Day of Older Persons.
Okay.
First, wish all the older persons well. Number two is now the impeachment of the Deputy President will be the first one of its kind to ever happen in this republic. And I think it has dire consequences on the holder of the office if the motion goes through. And our lawyers will advise us on what will happen. But the Constitution is very clear. If he wants to survive politically, he should either resign or wait for the ultimate axe, which is coming. And looking at the stories and what is going on so far, it seems like it has been decided that he should go. But what I'm wondering is, where is the boss? He should say something before this happens to his second in command. But if you see things would have gone up to that extent, that means the house is no longer habitable for the two. Because they are not conjoined twins as such, because one is elected, the other one is appointed. Because if you look at the history, people are saying that if Ruto would have picked anyone, President Ruto would have picked anyone, he would still have won. Even if he would have picked Mama Mboga from central Kenya, the ones who was being flagged around. But I want to say that it would be unfortunate for Honorable Rigathi Gachagua if this goes through. But I was expecting him to be remorseful But every other time he appears on the mic, he spoils it again. So I think his goose is cooked. Yes.
We'll wait to see, given that the motion has not even reached the National Assembly. Wakili, guide us through. You've just watched Kabasa's story. In terms of the legal provisions are there, the Constitution is very clear. What are these grounds that you think could be incorporated into that motion so that it can sail through if there is a motion to begin with?
Thank you very much for having me here today. And I think we are talking about now the question of Article 150 B, whereby we are addressing the question of impeachment. And on this question, we are looking at the gross misconduct. I believe from whatever we've been seeing around the DP going around since he was elected, rather they were elected, personally, for me, as a Kenyan, I can come up with very many grounds for gross misconduct before even I get to now the cabinet and the in-house. And these allegations being thrown around that he banged a table, if they are able to prove that indeed the DP banged a table on his boss, that is a very serious gross misconduct. The question of division politics, talking about tribal politics. Anytime he appears on national television, he's talking about Mrima and something. You know, we are a nation of very many tribes. If you're talking about politics of isolation, you want to isolate a certain community for your own benefit, then that is also a politics of isolation, and that one now also falls into gross misconduct. Another issue that we've been seeing the DP talking about in public, and this is what I'm talking as a public, as a Kenyan, yeah, just a citizen. There are a lot that we are yet to see once they table that motion. Because I believe when the motion is tabled now, we'll understand what are these issues we're talking about. But at the moment, from whatever we're seeing, we've been seeing the DP talking about shareholders. You know, trying to show the public that there are other Kenyans who are bigger than the other Kenyans. Those who voted for this government are now who are supposed to even get more services than other Kenyans. That is something that can put the DP into a lot of trouble. So the question only on gross misconduct, that is a question that will throw the DP out. And from what my brother said, clearly his goose is cooked. Because if at all, at the moment, from whatever we're hearing from the news and whatever, because we're yet to see, if at all they're saying they already have 300 signatures, then we know that in the event the same is tabled in the National Assembly, then we will be waiting now to see what happens in the Senate. Because I've seen some senators not really comfortable with this kind of arrangement. So I anticipate that the National Assembly will, of course, pass that motion. But I'm worried about the Senate. I think the Senate has a bit of sober minds. And we've seen this in the previous impeachments. I know our brother is laughing, but we've seen the previous impeachments.
We've seen what Kawera, the support of 45
yes, the first and second impeachment of Kawera, we saw very brilliant minds and sober minds in the Senate. So they might be excited with the National Assembly, but I'm really worried about the Senate.
Okay.
Yeah.
Joseph, welcome to the show, and we're talking about this impeachment motion. So how do you find it so far?
Yeah, thank you so much for this day that we are discussing 2 years into the government about an impeachment of a deputy president. For us in Jubilee Party yesterday, first of all, we got a very, very big win, and we thank our members for standing strong with the party.
We are trying to let's sort your mic. It has some issues. Apologies for that. Let me come back to Sammy. We are talking about, you said this will be the first time if an impeachment motion is brought before the House in regards to a second in command. But what are we looking at? We have Kenyans on one side who are requiring services, but legislators who are trying to go against the wishes of the people.
You know, a house divided cannot even deliver those services you expect. The house is already divided. The house has to be put in order. and the boss must put it in order. But unfortunately, we have waited until now it is the legislative arm of government that is putting this house in order. Because if you ask yourself, somebody is talking about shareholding. I thought after elections, we fall back and get services as the entire country. I bet, because I remember William Ruto when he was a deputy president, His Excellency William Ruto, he would come to Rift Valley, avoid even speaking in Kalenjin. Yes? There was a time he came and we had agenda, and he said, now, I am a national leader. I am not here for Rift Valley. I am here for the purposes of serving all Kenyans equally. And you saw him traversing the country, supporting the president's agenda, and not dividing the country. Already we are like on an election mood, like we are having elections next week. This is not right. Something has to put a stop to this. And the deputy president should be remorseful. He should be obedient to his, submissive to the leadership that appointed him. Because if he was to be impeached today, we'll have another deputy president who either, again, if we will be rogue, will have to be impeached until things come in order. Yes. Okay.
Wakili, I see you're shaking your head, but as you respond to that issue as well, talk to us. There were 3 petitioners who went to court, including the former Secretary General of UDA himself, that is Cleophas Malala. Why did the courts decide to stay out of this issue? Is it the doctrine of separation of power?
Well, before I get there, I think we need to be sincere enough. I think my brother is not being sincere enough. I think the DP, Gachagua, is just being a good student. He has learned from his boss. He has learned from the best. You know, we must agree that after the first election of Uhuru Kenyatta and William Ruto, immediately after election, William Ruto started campaigning. That's what Gachagua was just doing. He's just learned from the best. So we can't say that, so my brother saying that at some point William used to go in his backyard and avoid speaking in the Kalenjin and what have you, he's lying.
No, we have not said it's not lying.
No, he's lying.
We have covered the president so many times in his backyard. I was in Kericho just the other day with the head of state, and he did not speak in his local dialect.
Yes, even now when he's the president,
I think we are having a selective discussion here whereby the referee is getting
No, I'm just giving you an instant. You're saying it's lying, but I'm giving you an instant.
That could be one of the, what I'm trying to say is the president, as he was then the deputy president, then when he used to go back to his backyard, you know, he made that office of the DP look like a community office. It used to happen. So let's not lie to each other. Those are selective, and I must say, even Gachagua himself, he doesn't speak in Kikuyu all the time. He goes to Kikuyu. Yeah, he makes sure he looks at the congregation. Yeah, looks at the temperature, the political temperature, and he decides what to say. Yeah, you know, you must look at your audience. What do they want to hear? And that is what they are doing. So the president himself taught the DP what to do. So the DP Gachagua, remember previously we had a wave whereby we had a Kerandini Nyoro traversing the country. You know, the DP felt like, you know, the president decided to prepare younger people to come and take over Mount Kenya. Gachagua could not just sit there and wait. No, he had to step up and make sure that he's also coming up, showing his people that he can lead the mountain. Now, that aside.
To the question now.
You asked about the petition that Malala filed in court. And you asked whether it's a question of separation of powers or not. I think it's not. It's not a question of separation of powers. I believe if you read the ruling, what the court is trying to say is that this issue is still premature.
Yes.
Yeah? A court cannot jump into a question that is yet even to be tabled. We don't know what grounds that they are bringing in Parliament. So until we wait and we see the mover of the motion table that motion, then those grounds can now form a question to be determined in court. However, as you're speaking, surely what are you filing a suit for? It is still premature. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Joseph, now I think your mic is okay. Now you can have your views in regards to the discussion we're having now.
Yes, as I was saying, I wanted to also send an appreciation to Jubilee Party members across the country.
Yes.
For standing strong with the party. And the ruling that we got yesterday, that victory belongs to the members.
Yes.
Now, that set aside, I was even trying to listen to my colleagues here. And I'm wondering, 2 years into a new government, we are discussing about an impeachment. 2 years into a government that the school system, it's still confusing. Health system, still confusing. So my question on behalf of me and the people who think like me, is it a priority to do the impeachment now? Again, where did the rain start beating this government? Because 2 years, it is a very, very short time. And the exchanges that we have seen with the politicians and the passion they have to follow through this impeachment, they leave a person like me with a big question. Where, what time did the president and his deputy, who were a serious darling through the campaign, part ways? You hear stories, I say we hear because as Jubilee we were in Azimio and we are still in Azimio, we hear that even the selection of the DP, there were votes that were casted and he was a minority in that voting. But the president decided, this is my deputy. So when you find people who have such a relationship, even to defy the will of those who are making that decision at that time, leaves us Kenyans with so many, many questions. What happened? What was the fabric of their relationship? Was it a house built on sand that is now crumbling very, very fast? But as much as we want to look at it, it is solving something within the UDA. Remember, since last year, Azimio have been on the streets calling upon good governance. This year, the Gen Z followed through, calling upon good governance and accountability. We are at a time whereby there is so much discussed about the Adani airport lease. You have a lot of SHA issues. You have the university, a select committee was set to look into the funding model. All these things, and then you bring an impeachment motion. Are our MPs prioritizing their work properly? That is our question.
Okay. Dr. Thank you for joining us. You can see the heated conversation we are having here. Welcome to the show. Contribute to it. But Joseph has just asked a critical questions. We have a number of issues that are still pending. Is impeachment the priority now?
Thank you very much, Abdulaziz and the rest of the panelists. I think before we get to whether impeachment is a priority or not, is the impeachment holding water? First and foremost, does it actually exist? Because why I'm asking that question is, we may want to discuss, like the way our colleague has said here, you take a case to the court before even knowing what the content of that particular case is, then it will be difficult for any judge to make any judgment or any decision. Similarly, there are quite a number of issues that have arisen based on the current issues that are going on, which is the impeachment. Now, Deputy President is being accused of bringing division among Kenyans or issues of tribalism. We hear others are talking about issues of getting wealth within a shortest time period and listing some properties that the Deputy President owns, claim to own. You hear the issue of him not respecting the decision of the cabinet and speaking out of the decisions that has been made in cabinet outside the public. So these are things that people who are talking about the impeachment are moving so that they table it. But a point will come. Members of parliament in Kenya, historically, are fans of two things only. One is when there is a gain in a debate or a bill that they know they will get, they will secure some little things out of it. Secondly, is when you touch the national government constituency fund development,
which are coming to
which affects them directly. But when it comes to the real situation and the real mandate that they have been championed for to exercise in parliament, they rarely do that. And therefore, if priorities was not a priority for them even before, it can never become a priority now. But what is very important in the current debate on the deputy president impeachment is what is the gain in terms of the current government, in terms of the Kenyans, with the current situation, economic situation that we are already seeing. So people will not value actions based on the reaction, based on the results that they're going to achieve, but most of our actions are based on reactions. And therefore, this is a political game, a political exercise, supremacy that is going on. And you know very well, as he has mentioned during the time when Deputy President was being picked, the current Mount Kenyan members of parliament, the ones who are in the office currently, were not for Rigathi Gachagua. And therefore, if they were not for Rigathi Gachagua, and the main reason was that if Rigathi Gachagua comes in as a deputy president, he will going to destroy them, their political career, and for 2027, they may not get a space to be re-elected. Then that is the game that is trying to be played now to prove that if this guy goes off our way, through impeachment, because impeachment is not a very easy thing. If you are impeached, then you are not allowed to be in politics, you are not allowed to hold any political office or government office. So basically, they want to destroy Rigathi Gachagua completely politically, and then pave way for themselves. But there is a consequences to that. The consequences is that, just to know that my brother, the Azimio guys, all the heavyweight, political heavyweight of the mountain are actually out in the cold. They are not the ones who are in parliament at the moment. And they have a big say when they get the deputy government out of UDA, and now they call their issues in order, then there will be a big force there. Politically, those young men who are currently in active politics in the House and trying to advocate for the impeachment of the deputy president will definitely have also consequences in terms of their political career. Secondly, the issue of, or the factor of the previous immediate president. I mean, President Uhuru Kenyatta still plays a very great role as an elder of the mountain. And you know, he was an elder of the government, or the country. But now after he has handed over, everybody goes back to his backyard. And his backyard is the mountain, and he plays a great role in influencing the political landscape of the mountain region. And if that is the case, then with also the Kioni, what is his name? Kioni and Jeremiah Kioni and the rest being also in the free
David Moran
area, then means Gachagua will land in a very good place. However, impeachment is not a very good option for the deputy president. There are other avenues, there are other options, there are court battles, there are retirement or resigning from the position, so that he is able to gain momentum of political ground in his own backyard, so that he is able to negotiate with a more stronger political formations than where he is now. He's actually nowhere. Actually, let me tell you, he's actually nowhere at the moment, because he is in UDA. UDA is trying to push him out, and therefore, where will he go? He is nowhere at the moment.
Okay, we want to wind up this topic because we want to talk about NG-CDF. You just talked about it a little bit. But Sami, how can we salvage? It's exactly 10:30 and the House is coming in session at 2:30. We are here to see if the Speaker has cleared it to be on the floor of the House. But how can this situation be salvaged within those few hours?
Within those few hours, and I said before, he has to be apologetic, kneel down before his boss and say, "Save me," because he has all the powers to salvage him. Because I know he calls shots in the parliament at the moment, so he can tell him, he can just go slowly tell him, "I am repentant. These things." He should not go defending himself, because nobody will listen to it. He has a few hours to salvage himself. just see the boss, repent before those members of parliament, see them. Actually, it's repentance time because there's no time.
That sounds ridiculous. That sounds ridiculous. Yes. I think he just have to prepare himself and face it. Yes.
Yeah, there's no any other way.
Yeah, that is why I'm coming to Wakili. Wakili, let's say, for example, it is there, it has passed through the National Assembly, it has passed through the Senate. Yes. Can he seek recourse from the courts?
Yes. The Constitution says that in the event that the DP is impeached, and maybe he feels like the Senate did not follow the process. Remember, you're going to court not to tell the court to quash that impeachment or proceedings.
Yes.
No, you are just going to court on matters procedure. Was the procedure followed? Were the standing orders followed? Were you given fair hearing? Remember, in the procedure for impeachment, in the event that this election, the select committee of 11 members, once they find that indeed there are some issues that need to be discussed and to be voted upon, yeah, this motion now goes to the committee of the whole. Rather, the whole house now votes. Now, in the event that maybe he thinks that the committee was kind of influenced and he has information that this committee was influenced, then, and he has those proper evidence, then the courts can intervene. But the court can intervene if at all the process was followed to the latter. And from what I'm seeing, the members of parliament, most of them are very good lawyers. I think they are not going to make that mistake. If they want him out, they'll make sure they follow the process properly so that to avoid a battle, a court battle after the impeachment. However, the president the DP, I think at the stage where we are now, he cannot salvage anything.
Okay.
The only thing he can now do is to prepare a very good defense, make sure he responds to those questions properly, make sure that he mobilizes. I think the main here, because this is a political process, he does need to mobilize properly. And we've seen tables turn. We've seen the president turning tables and becoming the first DP to become president in the history. So anything can happen. And I believe that politics is a game of interest. We've seen allegations of our politicians, our MPs, some of them being bribed 100,000, 10,000 in toilets. So I think the DP knows what to do. Yeah, he has amassed a lot of wealth. He knows what to do.
No, you're telling him to bribe.
No. I didn't say that. I didn't say that.
What were you alluding to?
I didn't say that. I just said he knows what to do.
Okay, let's go to Joseph. Joseph, we have seen these young people, especially Gen Zs, they came out on the streets. In the words of the president himself, they were leaderless, they were faceless. Is it time to do away with this political affiliations, regions, because this is some of the myriad of issues that are being raised within the political circles? If the Gen Zs can do it without a political movement, can we not do the same for the country?
First of all, I would like to even whatever you will say, anchor my thoughts that as Africans, we must be proud of our culture and our ethnicity. We must be so proud of it because it is what we identify ourselves with as Africans. But using it for political balkanization,
yes,
that one is where corruption finds roots. That is where we find all this, because people may call Rigiji tribal and everything because he has been very vocal on his interest. But look at every other community. They have those caucuses, they meet and come to government, demand from government, only that they don't make too much noise. And if you put 10 people in a crowd and then also get another 3 people from another region, 5 people, those who are many will shout more because they are more. By their voice, you will hear them more. So every community in Kenya goes to the president to ask on behalf of their community. Even our constitution also emphasizes on the same. That is why we talk about regional balances, equalization fund, all those things, because we identify there are regions in this country that are a bit behind. There are those who are a bit advanced. we have to factor all that diversity, but using it for balkanization for political interest without service to the Kenyans, that is where it goes wrong. What Gen Z brought about is, can we first put Kenya first?
Yes.
That is why the signature was the flag, the language was unison, nobody was even, there was not even a class of who is at what class or what. So what the political class of today is missing, it is understanding that the generation of today, those people who are between 18 and now 40 years, they have a different perspective of how the country should be run. And the reason you find even the stories about impeachment of Rigathi and the conflict within the presidency is not even, they are not buying it. The young people are not buying that narrative. They are still not even sure it will be tabled. We are still skeptical. Why? Because we don't see that impeachment solving any problem that the Kenya is facing today. The only thing it will do, it is restore the ego of the president or those who feel they have removed the DP. But what comes after that impeachment? The turmoil that this country will go into, the political turmoil. Remember, we are dealing with somebody who says that he's a truthful man. He knows he cannot run again, any seat.
Yes.
What will he invest his time to do? Destruction of what he made. And then because they came together, they knew exactly what they did. So we are even eager to know. Me, I'm so eager to know how the election was won. I'm so eager to know they are done it deal. Now I think somebody who will be so hurt, have you ever seen an ex who is hurt? He will be investing his time to show people, I was not the bad guy. It was him. My speaking truth brought about. But we look at the charges, especially on the security issues. The oath of secrecy in government is totally breached.
Yes.
Not just Rigiji. All these government, the MPs and everybody, you will hear things they talk about concerning our security and the sovereignty of our country. You are afraid how this government will maneuver the next 3 years.
Okay, it is a matter of wait and see. At exactly 2:30, we're to see the face of the impeachment motion that is reported to be prepared by a section of National Assembly members. Signatures have been appended. That is the report we're getting. We're to see who will table it and what are some of the charges that have been put in that impeachment motion. Now quickly shifting gears because we only have 20 minutes or so. The High Court, in terms of the National Government Constituency Development Fund, declared unconstitutional. Now the High Court ruled that the National Government, NG-CDF, is unconstitutional. However, elected members of the National Assembly have been granted about 2 years to finish the pending projects across the constituencies before the NG-CDF ceases to exist at midnight on June 30th, 2026. The High Court ruled that the kitty was unconstitutional after making a determination on 9 issues following a petition filed by activists, that is Wanjiru Gikonyo, after the old CDF Act was declared unconstitutional. The ruling was made by a 3-judge bench made up of Justices Kanyi Kimondo, Roslyn Aburili, apologies for that, Mugure Thande, who stated additionally that the court ruled the members of the National Assembly have no powers to undertake development projects and that their role exclusively, as stipulated in the Constitution, remains representation, legislation and oversight. But Parliament clearly stated they will appeal the decision at the Court of Appeal. Now, let me start with you, Daktari. We're talking about the courts have declared this NG-CDF unconstitutional. But people on the ground are saying that if the NG-CDF is no longer there, what happens to the bursaries that are being issued year in, year out?
Kenya is very interesting, and every time we hear things which surprises us, you realize that a number of times things that parliamentarians do that are not constitutional have been flagged by the courts. They have been flagged by Auditor General. They have been flagged by control of the budget. However, parliamentarians have no ears to hear or to see, eyes to see, or they don't want to act on it. It is a very simple thing. We have divided powers among the 3 arms of the government, and of course, again, among the 2 governments or the 2 government level of government. You realize that an MP whose mandate is very clear in the Constitution, will want to go an extra mile to do things which has no framework in terms of his role. For example, you'll see CDF. You mentioned issues of bursary. The CDF, we have been told it covers education and security. Now, when you look at keenly, the two roles have clear, they are ministries mandated to play that role. For example, we have the Ministry of Education, we have Teacher Service Commission, and we have the schools which are running these institutions. We don't, at any one time, had that members of parliament, because of members of parliament's effort, schools could not run. CDF is not about schools, it's not about bursaries. CDF is used for bribing and rewarding people who have voted you and bringing back those who denied to vote you, so that in the next round they are in your basket. This often happens because there are quite a number of schools, classrooms, call them classrooms, which has been constructed in villages. For example, I come from Mandera West. In every village, you find around 4 or 5 classes constructed every year, the same classes. Every year, they are being constructed, and they don't increase in number. They are always 3 or 4 or 5, and every year, construction goes on in those classes. What happens is that members of parliament engage the local school heads and ask them to construct, to renovate one of the classes, and assume that is a new class constructed, and the amount of money spent there is something unimaginable. For example, in a population of around 10, 15 households, where the children in that location or in that settlement are not more than 15, somebody has constructed a classroom there. It's not that he is bringing education closer to settlement, because there's no teacher, there's no books, there's no electricity, there's nothing, even solar, there's no water, even water, the basic things. And yet, you are constructing a classroom. If you tour constituency like mine in Mandera West, you will going to realize that for the last 10, 15 years, from the time CDF has been utilized by the members of parliament, they have been constructing the same classrooms. If you go and audit those things, you will find shock. So, members of parliament are looking at things from the perspective of gain, not the perspective of playing their role as a member of parliament. For example, education itself. Look at 150 million every constituency. Time is how many constituencies?
290.
So how many billions of that? 150 billion? County government, the governor is also releasing around 110 or 20 million every year. How many is that? Another 150 billion. We are talking about, we are valuing money based on where it is going. They go to the national government, they are also releasing bursaries. So you'll realize actually 700 billion from different pockets of, including money from well-wishers and other development partners who are providing also scholarships and are going to education. But do we see that one in reality? No, we don't. So I think a time has come when we must be able to account for all expenditures that every person takes place. By the way, this money comes from the exchequer's account. And if the money is coming to an exchequer, why are you giving the money to someone else? Why don't you channel direct this money to the schools so that we can have schools freely? Recently, I was in Sri Lanka. And you know, Sri Lanka is a small island country. I was shocked. They are not economically stable like that, like us. But you know what? Education is free, health is free, and there is a road tarmacked in every village. Every village. And that is the only thing we need. We will pay as much as tax as the government wishes, so long as education, health, and road infrastructures are improved. The rest, we will not even bother you. We may even actually contribute to the development of this nation voluntarily, because you don't have that pressure that is pushing us. That is pushing us. Currently, people are pressurized just because they can't pay for their children's school fees, they can't pay for their medical services.
Okay, Dr. Sam, these are lawmakers. At the end of the day, they make laws. There is a 2-year grace period. Don't you think they will change these laws to address some of the issues the court raised?
Now, Hashim, the first thing is that the role of a member of parliament is legislation, representation, and oversight. The NG-CDF was brought in because they thought that they had no fund to implement any development projects in their areas. It was a way of getting some from the national government, which would not have reached if there was no one to follow. So the national government actually has allocated in the 2023-2024 budget, they spent 53.53 billion on NG-CDF. They say, as you ken a child, you bring him or her closer again. NG-CDF in some areas has done a lot. Where you find leadership that is responsible, actually NG-CDF is doing a lot. But in other areas, it is a budgeted corruption, form of corruption, because as Dr. had said, that it is a way of enticing the community to vote for you. But if you look, if you have, I think panelists, some have run for members of parliament. You see the problems that the people have. You wake up in the morning, women have sat outside your compound on lessons, each one having a school fees, or school fees form, fee structure. They have fee balances, and they want you to help. How do you help such if you had no fund? If you are depending on your salary? For example, PK Salasia says he earns only 2,000. How will he support the people of Mumias if he had no fund? I think in the next 2 years, the members of parliament should take their sweet time and ensure that the legislation is properly made, tested. They can even test it themselves and say, this one, you see there are lawyers there. They can tell you this will fail or this will sail through. They should add themselves a role into the constitution if it doesn't need a referendum. If that clause doesn't need a referendum, they can add themselves that role. But at the end of the day, if you look at it, the member of parliament, it doesn't even sit in the NG-CDF committee. He is an ex officio member that doesn't, he just makes sure that the funds come. But there is a committee that oversees the spending of NG-CDF, even though I can see panelists smiling.
Yeah, because we have seen legislators running
the
those
legislators
funds
run the funds, but like a marionette, a person who is operating a marionette. But we should put it in law clearly, such that if somebody challenges it, it doesn't go through because it has been well anchored in law.
So
but if they do it,
is it right to say that we put legislation?
No, allow him to finish.
No, shall we let
I give you time.
Are you saying that
no,
we
let's
put
get his logic.
Okay.
Yeah. Yes. Let's get his logic.
Now,
Let him
once
finish.
it is well anchored in law, we know who is responsible. They also do the oversight to ensure that in the areas that money is spent well. Because if the auditor gives a damning report about your area, you should hold those people responsible. There is no need of constructing a one-room toilet at 8 million. Seriously? A pit latrine at 8 million? It doesn't make sense. And also, these tendering procedures that we do nowadays, the lowest bidder. Supposing there were people invited to tender for a pit latrine, and actually the one who gave 8 million is the lowest bidder. You see, you end up giving such a person. We should also anchor that in law such that we know we get value for money. Because if that money is spent just haphazardly, we should amalgamate or consolidate the bursary, and it comes through one channel. Somebody said, and the president seems to fear doing this, because the other time the Gen Z asked him in a town hall meeting about the bursary thing, why can't it be consolidated? He talked about the MCAs, the women reps, they might come after him, and I was wondering, we elected him. The women reps did not elect him. The MCAs did not elect him. If we remove even their votes from his votes, he will still be a winner. So he should follow, amalgamate all this, and the money, as Daktari says, goes directly to the school. The head teachers and the teachers in there know the needy students.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, given that we're running out of time, Wakili, talk to us on the same, but where do we come in as Kenyans? Is it that we don't understand the role of our legislators? Because you go to the MCA, ask for one thing, which is similar to what the MP has. And once you have concluded with the MP, you rush to the governor's office. So do we understand our role as Kenyans, especially when it comes to some of these leaders we place in office and the mandate they are supposed to carry out?
No, I don't think it's a question of understanding our leaders. I think it's a question of the kind of society that we have kind of brewed. You know, the kind of society that we have now been brought up. Yeah, we are a kind of society that believes that, you know, if I elected you, then I should go hungry. Yeah. Because I elected you, my son should be given work. You know. Because I put in office, surely I should see some fire in my house, cooking something. Yeah, so I think it's a societal mentality that Mheshimiwa ako pale, and therefore he must give me something. Yeah, and now that's a big problem, because you can't really be able to manage the societal expectations sometimes. Like in this country, you cannot. I also tried to vie for MP in my area. I also vied for speaker, and up to now, you know, they'll call me Mheshimiwa, and you know that name comes with a prize. I can't go home without money. You know, it's a societal mentality that this guy, because he's called this name, he must have money. You know, they don't believe that you can't lack money. They believe that you have money. So the only way for you to survive is now for you to make sure this small CDF you're getting, you must have a budget. Like he said, a budgeted corruption. Budget for something, some money for yourself. You know, you must come back. You must campaign. You must be back. Re-elected. You must make sure that you sustain that period of 5 years, which means sustaining is making sure wakikuja asubuhi they are said, you must give them something. Yeah, and also there's a constituency where they will want to judge you by development, so you also budget for it. Yeah, so that is a problem that I think we must be able to emancipate on, or rather, a philosopher said, decolonize our minds and sort it out. Otherwise, we cannot really blame the MPs. It's the society that we have to blame. Let's blame ourselves. Yes. Okay. And I think also just to dive into the question of the NG-CDF, I think the courts were very right. You know, we cannot allow our MPs again to become, you know, project managers. Yeah. Unless they want us to amend the constitution and add them those responsibilities, then we can be able now to give them these monies. However, these monies can still remain in the county government and the national government. If you read the judgment, you'll see the court trying to fight with the question of the division of revenue. Yeah, that is Article 202 of the Constitution. Yeah, what did the draft of the Constitution really mean by division of this revenue bill? Now, if you look at this division of revenue, it only talks about sharing of revenue between two arms of government, that is the national government and the county government. It did not envisage another animal somewhere whereby we will also get our money, no, and send it to the NG-CDF. Okay. And therefore, I believe that unless for us one sort this issue, unless MPs one sort this issue, they only have one route. Okay. They must or they should amend the constitution.
Finally, Joseph, given that we are running out of time now. You interact with the politician. Yeah. I'm sure yourself you're a politician. Now, without NG-CDF, are these seats attractive?
Now that is the magic question. I think you have answered a question that will help Kenya move forward. First of all, when we make these political seats less attractive in terms of the money they control, we'll get professionals and people who have passion to serve. We'll get, when you go to the social work spaces, you find the social workers are never paid a lot, but the work they do because of the passion they have to serve, it is immense. You know, during Kibaki time, President Kibaki time, he brought about free primary education.
Yes.
And there was good transition. Then you came Uhuru Kenyatta, it stretched it to the high school, the secondary school. But now with this government, now there is nothing. All these monies, Kenya, we can have a free education for all.
Okay.
If all this money is channeled towards the Ministry of Education with better structures and good accountability.
Okay.
The reason an MP is fighting, if you go and do the census to the people who are purported to receive the CDF money, they don't want it because it is so selective, so discriminatory. So people, you find there's a place, a child is given 2,000, another place is given even 20,000. That fund itself has a lot of inequalities.
Okay.
So if you ask Kenyans, they'd rather have this money domiciled in the ministry and use proper channel for the free education for all.
Thank you.
Not
thank
an
you.
MP.
Thank you, Joseph. That is Joseph Kagai, Jubilee Party strategist. Next to him, it is Edward Waswa, an advocate of the High Court. I'm sure you're going to the courts right now.
Yes.
Sami Meli, a policy and governance expert. And then finally, Daktari Isaka San, a governance and policy expert. Gentlemen, thank you, so much. I'm sure the conversation could have continued for 3 hours. It was so interesting. Thank you so much. And of course, to our viewers, you can carry on the conversation, of course, online at KBC Channel 1 and at Abdiaziz Hashim 1. Now, given today is the 1st of October 2024, it is the rollout of the Social Health Insurance Fund, and that will be our focus in the second hour. Don't go too far. My guests have already arrived.
Mwanamke, kwa nini unisikizi?
Labda ninakuwa kiziwi, ama ni hao unaosema ndo hayana maana.
Eti nini?
Oh, kumbe pia una matatizo ya kusikia. Wewe upe nini hapo lakini?
Achana na kalume wangu.
Yaani leo sina muda kujibizana na wewe. Nitakwambia kitu kimoja tu. Mwanamke hapigani mume, hupiganiwa yeye.
Thank you for joining us on Healthy Living. Stay connected to Voice of America at voanews.com. A look at your kidneys and how they impact your health. And an expert discusses chronic kidney disease and how to protect yourself. And Ivorian psychologist Noor Bakayoko shares some insights on bullying and what can be done.
It's important to avoid major events or major health crises.
How do you know if your cough is due to a serious condition? We'll have some answers. Stay well
and strive to make every day a healthy day.
Class, I hope you've given her a warm welcome. This is Magdalene Chepkoech. She's our new student.
They have mwalimu hata wamenitengenezea simu. Kinyanjui.
Are you sure you know all those things?
Who do you think you are talking to? Kenyaju's online shop will bring it to her.
Julia, you cannot believe what just happened. What? Imagine the selfie I posted 30 minutes ago. It has now 9 likes.
Tito Mjuanjuku nasikiza. There's something called protocol. Respect it.
Do you pay school fees like the rest of us?
Of course, yes.
Then sit down like the rest of us. Enjoy.
Harambee Stars are set to face Cameroon in October before hosting the return leg in Kampala in mid-October. Catch the matches live on KBC Channel 1 as both teams chase slots for the 2025 Africa Cup of Nations live on KBC Channel 1, your true sports partner.
are nice.
And somebody, I think it's Daniel, who said, can we make them now more concrete, actionable, that they are real? So I think some of the things which I'll be harnessing from this presentation are such. Because of time and because of the way we have reorganized our morning session, I'll now call upon Dr. Vimal Shal, who is the chair of BIDCO Africa, to speak about pillars of sustainable agriculture in that regard. Thank you so much. Welcome.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Ladies and gentlemen, Honorable Cabinet Secretary, Dr. Andrew Karanja, all diplomatic corps, all the diplomats, distinguished guests, farmers, and fellow participants. It's an immense pleasure, actually, to stand before you today at the National Agriculture Summit. Probably a momentous gathering where we will explore and deliberate on the cornerstones of sustainable agriculture in Kenya. Our journey towards agricultural prosperity is not merely a goal. I think it's a shared mission that demands our collective efforts and unwavering commitment. And Dr. Karanja, we are glad that we have an economist and an agriculturist as a minister who's just come in, so that our expectations are much more higher. I'm going to speak about the pillars of sustainable agriculture, and I think I want to redefine something about sustainable agriculture in terms of what it means to us right now. So I'm going to speak about 5 pillars that I want to introduce here. Sustainability is often defined through the lens of the triple bottom line: people, planet, and profits. This concept emphasizes that for an economy to thrive continuously, it must balance social equity, climate adaptability, environmental health, and economic profitability. In other words, sustainable practices ensure that our actions today do not hinder the prospects of future generations. As mentioned by our friend from GIZ, agriculture today is significant. And I think it's important to say it plays a pivotal role in Kenya's economy, contributing approximately 34% of our GDP. This sector employs more than 40% of the total population, and about 70% of rural residents rely on agriculture as their primary source of livelihood. So these figures highlight the critical importance of agriculture, not only as an economic driver, but also as a cornerstone of social stability and environmental stewardship. So if we were to look at the pillars for sustainable agriculture in Kenya today, I would start with pillar number 1, policy coherence. Our first pillar is policy coherence. Currently, the government of Kenya, as we all do, faces challenges of navigating a myriad of policy instruments from various quarters. The Ministry of Trade and Investment introduces price controls. The National Nuts and Oils Crop Development through AFA produces a whole new different regulation, while Parliament proposes multiple legislations, all targeting the same farmers and stakeholders, like the Mung Bill and the Horticultural Bill that are in Parliament today, or probably been released or whatever. This fragmented approach not only creates confusion, but also hampers competitiveness, what Carol talked about, because competitiveness is key. Additionally, we must be vigilant to avoid resurrecting the license Raj, and I call it license Raj, you can Google it, system which was practiced during the British colonial governments, where licenses were required for everything. And they were issuing licenses only to select people in order to keep others out of the activity so as we dominate there. It seems like we have adopted that in a big way in Kenya, and I think we need to do away with that. Today, our farmers are faced with the burden of needing licenses for various activities, which only adds to their challenges. This must not be allowed, and we must champion for its rejection and avoidance. As Nelson Mandela once said, it always seems impossible until it's done. Let us strive for a unified and coherent policy framework, one that fosters an environment where our farmers can thrive. Data collection and information dissemination and registration is necessary. We agree with that. But it should be at zero cost to farmers. Yes, I said zero cost. Because this process can be digitalized. We can leverage on online platforms and devices to streamline operations. I ask you all a question. How much does it cost you to send an email or to fill up a form online? Zero. So let's do it in that manner. We will still get compliance. We will still get our data collection. We will still get to know who is doing what in agriculture. And we can then have policy instruments coming out that are coherent. So a streamlined policy landscape will reduce redundancies, eliminate conflicting directives, and ultimately make it easier for farmers to navigate and comply with regulations. Competitiveness is key here, and it's becoming increasingly difficult under the current circumstances. That is pillar number one.
Well, that is a function that is currently ongoing at the Kenyatta International Convention Center in regards to the agriculture sector network. In conjunction with the Ministry of Agriculture, the minister has already arrived, and once he starts speaking, delivering his keynote speech in that event, we'll be taking you there. It is totally about plastics exhibition. Now, we want to come back here to the studio and carry on with our conversation of the day. As I told you before we went on a short commercial break, it is the 1st of October 2024. An important day for the Ministry of Health and a new authority that is in town now. It is called the Social Health Authority. Now, the Ministry of Health today is set to roll out the Social Health Insurance Fund to replace the National Health Insurance Fund, also known as NHIF. Slightly over 2 million Kenyans have so far registered under SHA, with the number of Kenyans seen to flock to registration points to beat the deadline. That was the case yesterday. We have a representative here. She will be able to tell us if people are still registering with SHA. Now, the transition to the Social Health Insurance Authority received a boost yesterday from a Parliament's Health Committee where they cleared the scheme, stating that its queries regarding the multi-billion health digitization projects have been addressed. You do remember yesterday the Cabinet Secretary, that is Dr. Baraza, as well as the Principal Secretary for Medical Services, that is Harry Kimtai, appeared before the committee, of course, explaining some of the array of questions that were posed in regards to SHA. The ministry explained that it conducted a pilot program in 8 counties, studying a sample of 2,000 individuals to determine how those in the informal sector will contribute 2.7% of their annual income. And then finally, the Cabinet Secretary for Health, that is Dr. Deborah Baraza, flagged off essential health products and commodities in preparation for the rollout of the Social Health Authority. Of course, employers in the country have been told to remit these funds to the Social Health Authority starting from today. Of course, at the end of the month, you'll be witnessing in your pay slips your contribution you've made to the Social Health Authority. Now, joining us this morning to carry out this conversation is none other than Mr. Ulalo Chieng from Ambilex Solution. He is the operations manager, also a clinician. Karibu sana, Mr. Olale.
Thank you so much.
And of course, a representative from SHA itself. This is Julia Ouko. She is the division manager at the Social Health Authority. And then we have a Daktari in the house, Dr. Dan Ogola, the CEO and founder of Matibabu Foundation Kenya. And soon, Dr. David will be joining us. He is the deputy chair of KMPDU. Let me start with you, Julia. Where are we as a country right now? I know you're supposed to roll out SHA itself. How many Kenyans, if you know, have so far registered, and how is the progress?
Great. Thank you for having me on the show. Good evening, good afternoon, viewers. Good morning, viewers. Thank you. Because of the rush yesterday, we may not have accurate number, but the numbers are good. The counties are registering in great numbers. There are people flocking in the branch offices, like a last-minute rush. So I am sure maybe towards the end of the day or the week, we will have accurate numbers. But we are looking at millions so far. Yes.
And how are we faring in terms of, is everything ready to go?
everything is ready to go for now. Yes. The members are accessing services in healthcare. Those who want registration, despite the hitches, is still going on. And any information that you seek from any of our service points, you can be able to get as a beginning. Yes.
Because some of the main issues Kenyans were raising yesterday is in terms of the portal itself.
Correct.
They are unable to register. So has that been rectified?
Yes, just like a new thing, as you start, you get the hitches. So we were experiencing hitches. At times you reach a place where you're supposed to update your dependents, or you have updated. When you go back, you're not seeing them. So all that, as the system interacts with the traffic that is coming, is able to be handled. Yeah, so we are positive about that.
Okay, I'll be coming back to you. Let's get the words from the stakeholders, the people who now will be the first people who will take care of this SHA itself. Let me start with you, Mr. Olale. You work for Ambulance.
Yes.
You are the operations manager. What do you make of SHA, and how will you incorporate it within your organization?
I honestly think it's a good improvement, having read everything or some of the things that they have listed there as deliverables when eventually it rolls out and begins running. So I think it is a good thing to come, but still I think there are a lot of changes to be made, a lot of adjustments, and particularly on public partnership participation. I think that hasn't been done so well as up to this point. By training, I'm a primary healthcare giver, and so I interact with a lot of people on the ground, and I get to hear what they think or what their opinion is about SHIFT, everything that so far they know. And I think the knowledge out there is still very little. There's still a lot of myths and misconceptions about the whole thing, so I'll be looking to hear what the government also has to say about that. Yeah.
Daktari, these are patients who will come to your doorsteps. Are you ready to receive them under this new authority?
Yes, despite the hitches that Julia mentioned, yes, we are willing to receive them. Yeah, it's a move in the right direction, despite the hitches that they are in.
So what's the difference between now SHIF and NHIF you have witnessed as a practitioner?
I'm a health specialist, and in terms of hitches, I would rather start by the advantages that we are most likely to get from this SHA. It includes inclusion of certain packages that were not there, such as palliative care services, and I think in overall it's a great move towards achievement of universal health coverage.
Before we get to introduce the stories that we had prepared in terms of SHA, let me come back to you, Julia. Given that you said now you have at least sorted out the hitches that were witnessed yesterday, Kenyans are flocking to these registration points. What else are you doing to ensure at least you have reached the target? I'm sure the target was 12 million. So what have you done outside the box to ensure that you have registered the 12 million Kenyans?
Okay, we've partnered. Our government has made a step towards partnering with organizations and institutions that can help. We have opened up all our networks and branch offices and Huduma centers. We normally conduct registrations at various sites, like if it is a market day, you will find us there. If it is a church, you will find us there. There's also the involvement of the community health promoters who have been assisted with gadgets to help in the registration. So it's, again, the government also involved the national government down at the level where we have the chiefs and the local administration who are also out there in droves within their office setups to encourage the registration drive. Yes.
And as I told you earlier on, the CS as well as the PS for medical services, that is Harry Kimtai, yesterday we were before the National Assembly's Health Committee, where they of course brought the committee up to speed on the status of SHA ahead of its rollout, that is today. And of course the ministry has issued a statement in conjunction with SHA itself. I'll be reading out that statement, but we take those stories where it has been prepared in terms of Parliament as well as the procedures that we're going to witness within the new authority. Okay.
At the stroke of midnight, Kenya will switch to the newly established Social Health Insurance Fund. However, more questions now abound as to whether the departure from the National Health Insurance Fund has been marred by numerous false starts.
Up to this point in time, the ministry has failed to submit to Parliament the signed tender document for the consortium.
Lawmakers questioned the practicability of the means testing instrument, which the Social Health Authority targets for contributions by low-income earners.
I wanted to know the intelligence of the means testing. How intelligent is it in terms of what you did? For example, a mama who earns 150 shillings per day, we did the means testing on her, and we found out 2.75% will be there for her, and she'll required to pay annually. So how much money is this mama paying? How are you going to deduct it?
It will be similar to the Hustlers Fund.
How? It will be fully saved alone. But
0% interest.
How will you deduct it? From a person?
Owning a cow in Githunguri and owning a cow, please don't take offense, in Narok has different income implications. Now we are using about 17 variables, ranging from your source of water, source of lighting, source of power, material building your house, and all those.
If I'm putting the information, all you want to know, you put your information, if you go star 147 or whatever, we put that information down. I get the number I should pay. Is that what is going to happen?
That is correct, Chair.
That is what you want us to tell us. So tomorrow when I go to church, I tell them,
from tomorrow, we'll have two systems. NHIF system will remain. We'll still be processing those claims that were lodged with NHIF, so that system will remain. In a case, the law requires that we have to maintain data and records for a period of 7 years.
As I leave this meeting today, I don't have an answer on what to tell people on this 2.75%, and where we have been told there will be somewhere they will be keying particular parameters.
But even as the lawmakers demanded more answers, the Ministry of Health, through the Kenya Medical Supplies Authority, flagged off medical supplies and technology to various counties in readiness for the shift to a new insurance regime. Kamche Menza for Prime Edition.
And of course, thank you, Kamche Menza. We also do have a story prepared by Doreen Arange in terms of the new outlook of the Social Health Authority, how much you're expected to pay, and what areas are you like to benefit from, if we could have that story as well. And of course, we'll carry on with the conversation as my producers and directors will be looking for that particular footage. Let me come back to you, Mr. Olale. You've just witnessed the story. The minister was explaining, or the cabinet secretary rather, they're no longer ministers, was explaining the rollout in terms of the SHA itself. From the institution you come from, are you ready to inculcate this to the services that you provide? And what are some of these grey areas you might have witnessed and it can be approved, it can be improved on because SHA is already here?
Well, that is a very good question. So one, from Ambulex, we are very much excited about SHA coming on board because we think there are areas that we could collaborate on. For example, when it comes to providing emergency response. Ambulex has the widest network of emergency response providers in the form of ambulances, EMTs and paramedics. And I know that under SHA there is the emergency critical and emergency and critical conditions fund. So then we could have public-private partnerships with SHA and ensure that those who are especially underserved, because the subscription fees for Ambulex is actually very affordable. It's quite affordable. We're talking about 100 shillings or $1 per month. That's 1,200 shillings in a year for a number of evacuations, either with an ambulance. And you'll remember that not all evacuations have to be, not all emergency responses have to be evacuated. Some can even be discharged on site. And I think this is the kind of partnership that SHA should already be looking to work with. And then in terms of the grey areas that I think are still there, And sorry to mention that this was also witnessed when we had NHIF. I think emergency response was not really well catered for, even in the past. Like, I remember there was a time that guys were bidding for the tender to do emergency evacuations for NHIF. That really never came out clearly, and that's an area I would also like her to really expound on, like, what are the processes this time around? How can a partner or how can a provider like Ambulex, who has these resources, there's an app, we have the right numbers in terms of all these resources that are required, how can we then partner together? Yep.
Daktari, similar question to you, but in terms of solutions, what solutions can you provide to ensure that some of these teething problems can be addressed and ensure that at the end of the day, healthcare is affordable?
Oh, thank you so much. What SHA is presenting, especially from the Primary Healthcare Fund, is where they're trying to implement what is provided in the primary healthcare network guidelines. The government has already produced that. And that will see a situation where we don't wait till health situations are escalated to secondary and tertiary. They're dealt with at the primary level, the point of care. And that what is envisioned in the primary healthcare guideline is a hub and spoke model, where the community health workers or health promoters are level 1, then we have dispensaries level 2, and we have health other health facilities as level 3, and for level 4 we have which becomes the hub. And so through that there will be a two-way communication between the community and the health facilities. And in terms of improvement, probably the government would want to pay a lot of attention in the establishment of the multidisciplinary teams that will make this be operationalized. Yes.
Now, Julia, pick it up from those concerns that have been raised by members here, as well as the members of the National Assembly who had raised questions if SHA is ready to be rolled out. And as you responded to that, we're talking about some of these teething problems, I should say, you have just witnessed. So how are you addressing those issues ahead of this rollout?
Okay. Thank you once again. I would wish to say that with a new thing and new changes, you will expect hiccups and questions, but they were not in a way that they were not foreseen. These are issues that were foreseen, and like you heard the PS clearly say, that the two systems will run concurrently. This morning I had to ensure that the system we normally use to approve patients' access to healthcare is working. And we have established, yes, it's working. Hospitals are able to send their requests. We are able to respond. So the two systems are working concurrently, and with time, one will leave to the other, because it has to be one system that they're talking about. If I may come to my colleague here about emergency services, we are happy to say that the Social Health Authority has this time braved itself and walked into what we call emergency services ambulance evacuation, which the National Health Insurance Fund was not able to, based on sustainability and the funds. And so in this one, we are looking at evacuating a Kenyan. You do not have to be registered, you do not have to be a member, you just have to be a Kenyan within the boundaries. And once you get an incident or an accident, the process seeks to transfer you to the nearest healthcare facility. So it's to the facility from your point of incidence, or from a facility to another for better care. What are we looking at here? We are looking at evacuating emergency cases. The reimbursements and the tariffs are as per kilometer, and it is accessible to all Kenyans. We are looking at managing this through a national ambulance center, which will be established as per the regulations. So partners and all who may want to work together in the National Ambulance Call Center are welcome for the benefit of many. Now, my colleague here mentioned the the pretty much advantages and the benefits that the Social Health Authority is bringing that is a bit different from the National Health Insurance Fund. We have a couple of them. We are now into critical care. That is the HDUs and the ICUs in a bit more defined way. Assistive devices where we have hearing aids and walking crutches and all that we never used to be able to finance. The palliative care that he was mentioning, where you get your terminal care, especially for people who have terminal illness and they just need a setup that is more of a hospital-based. We are now into screening. SHA is willing to walk into screening. Rehabilitative services have been improved. Of course, we were there, but now it's a bit better. We've mentioned the emergency evacuation services. We are willing to start and gather our data with the 18-year-olds and below when it comes to eye health, opticals and frames. The oral health services as well, which was something we were not doing. And then also the last expense, at least some 5 days when the body is still in the mortuary. So all these with the regulations are things that will be set up and take off gradually and as we can sustain. What we used to have that has now been enhanced are like the cancer services, the surgeries, then the free maternity, the tariffs have been increased to hospitals that are willing to offer the imaging services, even the mental health. So there's quite a bit there and quite some work to do that we're looking forward to slowly integrating in our systems and bettering access to healthcare.
Okay, I have a question there in terms of how you decided to allocate when it comes to dental, optical, some of those key areas. But Olale, you've just heard from Julia. She's talking about it is already factored in within SHA. Now, how can you ensure that the patient who's there on the ground, linking up with your facility, receiving that treatment or taken to a health facility to receive a treatment without any hiccups along the way in terms of ensuring that if you have not paid, we cannot take you to hospital?
I think we can leverage on the technology that Ambulex has, and I know that SHA also has put some funds for technology, and they're really working on that. So we can leverage, for example, at Ambulex we operate with a simple app that is available on iStore and also on Google Play, which any ordinary Kenyan is able to download, register, and we can integrate this together with what SHA is already using so that they can get this on the back end, so long as all the necessary details are provided. So that is one way to know who are the subscribers, one, and two, what amount have they paid and up to what level of service are they getting because of what they are paid. So I think leveraging on technology.
My question is, you do know how it happened with NHIF.
Yes.
You have to wait at least, let's say it was a day or even 2 days until that money is remitted. So are you willing to take those patients to the hospital and wait for SHA to remit the money?
Absolutely. Yes. That is the kind of partnership that we want. We want good representation. We want meetings with them so that then we are sure that this is the process we can use to follow up for payments and even those who are registering just as new partners.
And as a health specialist, Daktari, tell us what is in there for your patients that you load but can be improved on?
So what is in SHA that can be improved on, as I mentioned before, is that for us to achieve the best primary health care, we need to SHA may want to consider establishing the hubs within the counties, that is from sub-counties to counties, and to do that throughout the country, and that will enable the operationalization and for the beneficiaries to maximize on the benefits given by SHA. I wanted just to mention, as I look at SHA, it will enhance quality of care. And by quality of care, I mean in terms of safety, in terms of timeliness, because those are provided for, in terms of efficiency, because the way it is structured is to both improve the allocative efficiency and technical efficiency, the productivity. And the other thing is, and this is very important in SHA, is the equity component. There are a lot of barriers to accessibility of health services. And some of those are because we have been having weak linkages between the spokes and the hub. And as I mentioned before, the spokes includes the community health promoters, to the dispensaries, to the level 3 health facilities, and the hub, which is level 4. So maybe if SHA can concentrate on strengthening the MDT, the multidisciplinary team.
Okay, we'll come back, hold that thought, and Julia, I'll allow you to respond as well. I want to take our viewers back to the Kenyatta International Convention Center, where the Agriculture Sector Network is currently ongoing in conjunction with the Ministry of Agriculture. I'm being informed the Cabinet Secretary is already there. Let's listen in to the conversations that are happening in terms of the plastics exhibitions.
So thank you very much indeed. I wanted to thank the EU, I want to thank AGRA, I want to thank Uplift Agriculture, VP Group, who's Mr. John Joe is here, Farm Innov, Cooperative Bank Lattice, and of course my own company, Elgin Kenya. Without partners and donors and money, very few things happen. So I want to thank all of you for your support over the past few years. And finally, ladies and gentlemen, there are 3 exceptional human beings who have spent days and nights getting this thing going, and I wanted to quickly recognize them. Agatha Thuo, who's our CEO, I want to recognize her. Agatha, please stand up to be recognized. Now, this lady single-handedly has managed ASNET, I do not know how. Supported by Winnie. Winnie, where are you? Is she around? Winnie and Henry Njenga. Henry's there, he's our FC. And we have one more person, policy, who's not here this morning, but can you imagine, ASNET is run by these 3 to 4 people who work 24/7, and they're so hardworking. I just don't know how they do it. So I want to thank personally Agatha, Henry, and Winnie for really the wonderful support you give to us. So ladies and gentlemen, my hope and prayer is over the next 2 days, we have much more discussions, much more thought process. At the end of it, tomorrow afternoon, we come up with a 10-point plan on how to improve research, innovation, and technology in agriculture. Thank you very much indeed, ladies and gentlemen, and fruitful discussions. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, it's my great honor to introduce our CS, Bwana Karanja, to you this morning. Some of you already have met him in your various networks, but let me quickly formally introduce who he is. Bwana CS is one of those incredible technocrats, brains in agriculture. He's been 35 years in the public sector, both locally and internationally. Interestingly, he started his career as an extension officer, moving up to a planning officer in Ministry of Agriculture. He served in the Cocoa Board in Ghana, Inter-Africa Coffee Organization, research fellow at the Tegemeo Institute. Then he joined the World Bank in 2003 as a senior economist. He's done various consultancies for USAID, EU, World Bank, Government of Kenya, across here and across Africa and internationally. And fascinating enough, and which really, in my mind, tells me he's just the perfect man for the perfect job, he's published 26 papers and book chapters. So I think we have in our midst a real professional agriculturalist. After a very, very long time, we feel so confident, Bwana CS, that you're with us, you're holding our hand, you are our father of our sector. And already in the last 1 month, he's given us 2 appointments to see him. So we know he has an open door policy. He's a man who will reach out to all of us, who will collaborate with us, who will talk to us, understand our world. So I'm very, very proud and happy, Bwana Karanja, that you have accepted to be our chief guest. And I welcome you on stage. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Chairman ASNET, my friend Dr. Bimal Kataria, board members, trustees, the CEO of ASNET, who happens also to be my classmate, development partners, ASNET partners, representative of the county governments. We have the private sector players and captains of the industry, the academia, farmers present, our distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. It gives me great pleasure to be part of the 4th National Agricultural Summit here in Nairobi. I am also honored to recognize the presence of you all for gracing this important event, cognizant of the fact that most of you had various commitments, but you decided to be with us here today. I want to thank the Agriculture Sector Network, ASNET, who are our partners, we regard as our partners, for the invitation and for the organization of this summit. Ladies and gentlemen, the drive to increase agricultural productivity, provide safe and nutritious food for a growing population, and expand our international markets for Kenyan produce is the inspiration by which the government launched what we call the bottom-up economic transformation plan, the BETTER. And agriculture remains the #1 pillar in BETTER, and we are greatly appreciate the ongoing activities and impacts which has been realized in some of the areas. As we engage in discussions during this summit, I note that the theme for the 2024 National Agricultural Summit is embracing sustainability, innovations, research, and competitiveness in agriculture. This is a fitting theme, as it
Well, there you have it. The Cabinet Secretary for Agriculture, Dr. Andrew Karanja, is currently addressing the 4th National Agriculture Summit that is currently happening at the Kenyatta International Convention Center on how Kenya can ensure some of its produce go to the international markets and how you can better grow yields within our farms and ensure that our farmers get the appropriate remuneration when it comes to their produce they produce in their farms. Now, I'm being informed our reporter Felix Q is following on that particular bit and will duly inform us in our subsequent bulletins. We're still carrying on with our conversation here. Today it is the rollout of the Social Health Authority, and of course the ministry issued a statement which I'll be reading later on, but we do have a representative here of SHA, that is Julia Ouko. She is the division manager of SHA. We also have Mr. Olale Ochieng, the chief operations manager and a clinician at Ambulex. We also do have Dr. Dan Ogola, the CEO and founder of Matibabu Foundation Kenya. Julia, I'm coming to you. There were those issues that were raised by Olale here and Daktari, and also talk to us on how SHA arrived at distributing these funds when it comes to dental care and other various services that will be offered or benefits Kenyans will get to see under SHA.
Thank you. The two concerns majorly were optical and the oral health services. So in the optical, SHA envisions a household cover, and the provision of services in a hospital that is under level 2 to 4 as per the Kenya Essential Package of Health. So in the eye health, we are looking at the tests, we are looking at the refractive errors. So that is a good beginning. When it comes to the oral health, in oral health, we are looking at financing consultations, tooth and gum diseases. We are looking at tooth extractions and all that. That is just in your oral health. So let's just get that clearly. When it comes to apportioning, there are lengthy meetings and consultations as to how much we are looking at in terms of collecting. Remember, the Social Health Authority comes with 3 funds. The Social Health Authority establishes the Primary Healthcare Fund, it establishes the Social Health Insurance Fund, and it establishes the Emergency, Chronic and Critical Illness Fund. So the modalities around financing of the funds were high level, and every discussion and arrangement and possibilities were discussed. And so what we consider, how much are we going to get, is what informed how to apportion it to the various benefit services that the Social Health Authority was willing to walk into. They were also informed by previous utilization trends that was in the NHIF. Like if we are walking into this package, what is the population that is likely to access this service? How much does the service cost? Then how much do we have? And the calculations would go on. So the economists, government economists were all there. The actuarialists from both government and even the National Health Insurance Fund. Our benefits team, we were also there. And there was all that information to help us know what to apportion where. Yes.
And let me come back here to Olale.
Yes.
You've just heard clearly from what Julia has stated. For practitioners such as yourself, people who are running these organizations at the end of the day that will cater for the services of the patients who are out there, are you still going to ensure that you wait for these funds, give the service, but there is that assurance that SHA has given at the end of the day they will pay?
I think yes, because it would be very unethical also to deny Kenyans service like the ones that we offer also. And then simply because they haven't made payment when SHA has given us their word that they're definitely going to remunerate. So I think we'll definitely wait, and we're very much willing to work with SHA towards that.
Daktari, health practitioners all over the world, especially here in Kenya, opt to work with private insurance mostly, as opposed to what governments are providing. So what can SHA learn from the private sector that can be incorporated to ensure that health specialists such as yourself at least can give out the services knowing clearly you will be paid at the end of the day?
The private health sector, especially the third-party payment mechanism from that are private, there's an assurance, of course, between both from the government, as in SHA, and the private health insurance. The only difference is that in terms of efficiency, the time to releasing the money is shorter for the private insurance compared to the government. The other thing is that the private insurance give more reimbursement, as it were, compared to the government. But again, if you are to look at the intention of the government, is not for one to overly benefit from by offering their services, but to also consider the people who cannot afford it. Health is a public good.
Yes.
For the private, it can be a source of making profit. Yeah, so there should be a balance between what SHA is doing and what the private insurers are doing. Yeah.
And Julia, there you have it. That is the elephant in the room. How can you assure these health practitioners and health institutions that they will be paid at the end of the day? You saw what happened with NHIF in terms of reimbursing the services that have been provided.
Okay, correct. Probably I would start by saying in the new SHA regulation, the new SHA law and regulations as well, SHA has been put as the first payer, which was not with the National Health Insurance Fund. So that therefore means when a member accesses services that the SHA is financing, the SHA takes the first burden. And that is, I think, a good thing for I don't know, for private insurance, but it's also a surety to the members of SHA and contributors as well that their bills are being taken care of. However, having operated in Kenya for close to 60 years, you cannot doubt a public insurance payment. We have those arrangements in the contractual obligations that we have with healthcare providers, which is now going on. Healthcare providers are now receiving the contracts and signing them up. So in that arrangement, we define how we are willing to undertake our payments, our payment options, our payment methods, and how and when we shall do our payments. So hospitals are confident that in as much as SHA has taken over NHIF, that will not affect how we have been relating when it comes to payment.
Yes. And the person who just joined us is Dr. David Mundia. He is the Deputy National Chair of the Kenya Medical Practitioners and Pharmacists Dentist Union. Thank you so much. That is KMPDU in short. We'll be talking to you in just a few, Daktari, but I'm being informed there is an event that is currently ongoing in terms of the Principal Secretary for Broadcasting and Telecommunication, that is Professor Edward Kisiangani, who is presiding over the program for the signing of a performance contract. Once we do get a hold of that link, we'll be going there. Daktari, as we are setting you up, let me come back here to Olale. Yep. Is that enough assurances? And going forward, what are some of the solutions that you can give to SHA to make it worthwhile at the end of the day for the taxpayers?
I think the biggest issue, and first of all, let me say that I like Julia's response. You can always rest assured for a public payment. And I think the only other issue that has been there, at least from the clients that we're meeting, has been the affordability and availability of that actual service. So there are those individuals and even some of the corporate institutions that feel like 2.75% is a lot. And then historically, we've also had very few services or no services sometimes. And also when it came to historically, again, NHIF partnering with private facilities, sometimes they would just refuse, or they would really limit the kind of, say, a prescription that you would get to 1 or 2 medications. And that is one of the things I think they need to look at, actually, and see that the service that is available in public facilities under SHA is almost the same kind of service that is there in the private facilities. Yes.
And Daktari, coming back to you, we are talking about earlier on before we went to KICC, we were talking about some of the benefits that can be gotten from the Social Health Authority, especially given that you're a health specialist. As you respond to that similar question, you know what happened to NHIF. Hospitals and practitioners were taking advantage of the funds, of the public funds. Even NHIF itself, which is currently today before, or should I say the new authority is before the Parliament itself. So are you confident enough that those issues have been addressed, and as a practitioner, are you ready to receive these patients who are under this new model?
Yeah, we are ready to receive the patient. Health is a human right. You have alluded to something very important. It's called supplier-induced demand, yes, where you will find the practitioners telling people to carry out too many tests that are unnecessary. Too many tests that are unnecessary. So it will be SHA's responsibility to guide the healthcare providers on how to deal with the supply-induced demand, the SID. Yes.
Julia, yes. We're talking about some of the new modalities. So what is the major difference between NHIF and SHIF, including the question that I've just asked Daktari? How do you ensure that the public trust is rebuilt? Because we all saw what happened in NHIF.
I want to say at this point that as a member of NHIF or now SHA, what you look for is, I have contributed, so I expect service. And so at the point of service, the difference needs to be very clear. So you find, like now, the biggest thing that SHA has brought on board, and I wish to applaud government on that, is that we are going to have the same tariff across. So it does not matter where you have accessed the service, but as long as that service is reimbursable, then it is going to be standard across. And so we expect, therefore, that the other end, who is the service provider, the healthcare provider, is able to give quality service. Remember, the government has gone as far as enacting the Facility Improvement Fund. So with that, we expect that the funds that are coming from SHA are zeroed in the facility.
Yes.
And so the facility may not have a reason why they are not plugging back that reimbursement or whatever they have been paid back into ensuring that there is quality of care. So that is a big difference. And then again, we're also looking forward to that system that will be able to do quite a bit of checks and ensure that what is actually being requested was done and is what is being reimbursed. So there's a big move in that we are now doing equity as should be done, and that the facilities have been enacted through law to now zero in on their funds and give quality care, and that they have a system that is going to assist to ensure that this is done.
Now, we do have a practitioner on the ground, and he has members on the ground. Dr. David, thank you for joining us. He is from the Kenya Medical Practitioners, Pharmacists and Dentists Union, which is the KMPDU. You've just heard from Julia. She is a representative of SHA. She's saying that in the Facility Improvement Fund, those funds that are collected from those health institutions, at the end of the day, they will go back to the health institutions, because you know what was happening previously. Some of those funds that were collected from those health institutions were allocated to other functions. So is this a plus for the practitioners who are working in those institutions?
Well, thank you. And my observation is that the county governments have a duty, just like the national governments have a duty. And it seems like the county governments don't want to do what is right, and that they have to be micromanaged to do the right thing. County governments receive money from the National Treasury to allocate and distribute across as many services. So now the Facility Improvement Fund, that law, it's brought in to ring-fence funds at the hospitals. On the basis that county governments are unable to prioritize funds to the healthcare sector. It's like creating a law to probably ring-fence money for roads, or creating a law to ring-fence money for agriculture. So we are doing a lot of too many laws, and there is something wrong with the leadership. I don't understand why, because if services are devolved and you have a duty as executive, as a governor, and you have to deliver on the principles of what your people elected you to do, you just have to deliver. So a law was created to try and lock funds at each public hospital, so that they can be used at that local area to improve the service delivery. So it's a good concept. But again, there are other persons who bring up another issue, that it is in clash with the Public Finance Management Act. So we're yet to evolve to that point whereby now it says we lock this money, it needs to go back, then it comes back to the county for it to be redistributed. So we're yet to understand those conversations.
And of course, it was passed through Parliament. These were different bills, now there are acts in the Facility Improvement Fund. Maybe tell Kenyans what was lacking before in terms of when those monies came, the monies that were collected from the hospitals, where did they used to go, and what are they required for? So is it to pay the workers who are working there? Is it to buy equipments within the health facilities?
Okay. Well, in Kenya, again, we're in a very interesting country. You have resources, but prioritization of resources becomes very problematic. And money for HR, for a long time, that's the human resources for health, has never been put in a particular vote that this is the money that just goes to the HR salaries and all that as allowances. This is the money that goes to drugs. This is the money that goes to maintenance. This is the money that goes to health promotion. So there is a mix mash of all that. So you only get the full money, and it's up to you to decide how to allocate based on the number of persons you have on your payroll, or maybe the drug orders that you've got, and the number of projects you want to run as health promotion activities. And most of the county governments, what I've seen, they're into construction projects. They'll put up blocks, but they never plan for HR, they never plan for service delivery. And for that, to them, that is what they'll take pictures and say, this is what we've done, this is development. But it's blocks and blocks without people, without services. So that is not right. So that's why now it's decided to have monies locked with that Facility Improvement Fund to have services delivered to the people. Now this money can come from user fees or from many other models of financing. So now we have, previously we had NHIF.
Yes.
Now it is proposed, you're supposed to have this money coming from SHIF. Now these services are supposed to be optimized so that when you provide more services as a facility, you get more collections. And from these collections, you're able now to self-sustain like a small private business, but it is a public entity. So that's the whole concept of that.
I'm well informed. We are running out of time. Let me start on this end. Mr. Olale, give us your final remarks in terms of SHA, given that it is being rolled out today, and what can you tell the viewers right now in terms of this fund itself?
Well, just a few things, or one thing. I think from where we sit, we still believe that SHA is one of the best things that has happened to this country. But we want more public participation and a lot more tests or controls, just to make sure that we have the right number, we have the right data for us to be able to make those decisions. And then, of course, from the type of clientele that I deal with, if we could revisit the 2.75%, yeah, but at the end of the day, I would still make a clarion call to every Kenyan to register so that we are all on the same platform. Then we can have a discussion when we are all on the same boat, as opposed to us having divergent opinions or positions.
Julia?
Thank you very much. I would call upon Kenyans not to shy off from the Social Health Authority. Kindly proceed to register. Let's pull together towards this healthcare plan that we have. We are calling upon healthcare providers, do not shy off from providing services. Social Health Authority has got your back. Kenyans, Social Health Authority is willing to work with you in your healthcare issues, terminal or not, critical or not, we should be there. So let's just pull together, try and understand it, give each other time, place. It is well meant. Every other thing that could not be right, let's bring them out and let's just work together to ensure its success.
Dr.
Thank you so much. Kenyans, let's register for SHA. We have been desirous of having universal health coverage, and the government has formulated policies like Universal Health Coverage Policy 2020 to 2030, Kenya Health Policy 2014 to 2030, and Kenya Vision 2030. And to achieve this, to achieve our dream of having universal health coverage, then SHA is a great tool that we can use to realize those government's policies. Let's register for it.
Finally, Dr. I know you joined us a little bit late. Give us your final remarks.
My point will be for the two governments, the two levels of government. Yes. They are the drivers of this project. And if they fail to prioritize the sector, it is just going to crash. And as it is right now, we are having only the formally employed stabilizing this fund. And if these people get fatigued with contributions, with non-matching commensurate benefits, we are not going nowhere. The funds must be optimized in a way that they are sustainable. Enough funds to the PHC fund, enough funds to the SHIF fund, and enough allocations to the emergency care fund. Otherwise, we are stuck here for a long time, and that is not where we want to be at.
Thank you so much. That is Dr. David Mundia. He is the Deputy National Chair of KMPDU. Thank you for making time. I know you came a little bit late, but thank you for your time anyway. We do have also Dr. Dan Ogola. He is the CEO and founder of Matibabu Foundation Kenya. Dr. thank you for coming in. Julia, you've just heard from the stakeholders here, and Kenyans are still talking about SHA both on and offline. We wish you all the best. She is the division manager at the Social Health Authority. And then finally, Mr. Olale Ochieng, he is the operations manager, a clinician as well at Ambulex Solution. Thank you, gentlemen and lady, for making time for us. I'm also being informed that the Principal Secretary for Public Health is currently in Kisumu for the SHA rollout, and we'll bring you those live images in our subsequent bulletins. But for now, that concludes our conversation. Carrying on the conversation, of course, both on and offline. These are critical issues touching on matters to do with health. You've just heard from the representatives and stakeholders within the health sector. It is upon you to go and register under this new authority, given that it has replaced the National Hospital Insurance Fund. My name is Abdiaziz Hashim, but before very own Kasichana Masha joins you for Kurunzi Mashinani, we do understand the function of the Principal Secretary for Broadcasting and Telecommunication, that is Professor Edwin Kisiangani, is presiding over the program for the signing of performance contract. We leave you with those live images, and good morning for now.
Wewe ni mzee, tuangalie maneno ya prostate. Wewe ni kijana, tunaweza kuangalia maneno ya sexually transmitted diseases, HIV, tunaweza kuangalia maneno ya behavior and all those kind of things. And that is how we are going to solve the problems of the level 6. That is why
to do the things that we have been told to do in the way we want. We must do them within the parameters that have been defined for us. I think you all understand the commitment of His Excellency the President to transform this country. And the President's transformation
is hinged on 5 pillars. It doesn't matter how you look at it, but the 5 pillars are critical in our performance. We are going to be measured not just using platforms that we have thought about in our own bedrooms, and we come in the morning and we think that these are what the things we want to do. But if you look carefully at the scheme of things, everything is hinging towards the 5 pillars. One of them being medium and small enterprises, MSMEs. One of them being universal health care, agriculture and food security, then housing and settlement, and then of course the information superhighway. A subsidiary to that is of course the one on climate change and the environment. But through those 5 pillars, we have made a decision in government and with the guidance of His Excellency the President to empower our people. Our people should be empowered through that. So as you implement these performance contracts, you must remember 2 things. The first thing is that we are not here for showbiz. We are here to empower our people. Second, and we empower them by giving them the right service and even making sure that they are satisfied with what we're doing. They are the ones paying taxes, and they must ask questions, hard questions about how we are performing. So empowerment is key to this government, and that's what the President believes in. And all of us are behind that. The second thing you should remember is that this empowerment is not floating in the air. The empowerment is coming through the 5 pillars. So always remember that. And as HODs, I encourage you, every time you wake up in the morning, you find that a lot of people want to talk to you. If you don't watch out, you will see that in just a single week, 20 people have tried to see you, but they have not seen you because some of your junior officers have stopped them. So be proactive to get out of your own office, to check who wants to see you, and deliberately check who is waiting at the lounge to see you at the office, and make sure that you serve the public by talking to them. You may not have an immediate solution to their problems, but it is important if they want to see you, you must see them. The other thing is that if you don't see these officers, some crooks, I'm not saying they have noticed a specific one that I can name, but it happens across the government. There are gatekeepers who sit, they can, even in our case here, they could be operating at the bus stage downstairs. And then they say, before you see the PS, before you see an HOD, you need to pay money. These are cartels you must break because corruption is killing our country. You may be shocked that people have been collecting money in your name and you don't know. They say, HOD for ICT collects, before you see them, you must give me 1,000 shillings, 2,000 shillings. So in a full day, if there are 20 people, there are 20,000 shillings collected in your name, but you will never see that. So you must be very vigilant about corruption, because you will be the one blamed, and yet the people collecting money in your name, you don't even know them. So clean that part, be proactive, get out and check who wants to see you, and use your networks to establish whether there are any citizens who are being conned money in your name. It is not right. The President has been very clear about that. We must fight corruption in this country. It has killed our country. And you must also understand that even if you collect this money and you pay school fees for your children, they will fail. They won't pass exams, just picking money which is not yours, forcing people in exchange for services. That money, if you buy food, you will have a stomach problem. So that it's not good. So watch out who may be using. You are very senior people as HODs. Anybody can use you, and they can use you with or without your permission. And in many cases, they use you without your permission. So check that. And if there are any officers within your offices who are doing that, you must check them and make sure that they are not They don't do that. The relevant disciplinary action should be taken against them. So this is why this exercise is very critical. Improve service. We must fight corruption. We must support the president to make sure that the president achieves his objective as a ministry that is leading the way. When the president is pushing everybody to the digital platforms, this is the ministry that is doing that. And so, to achieve that objective, if we fail, we shall have failed the head of state, we shall have failed the country. So we have a big, big duty to make sure that anything we do within our performance is something that improves the performance, overall performance of government. And when we do that, I think everybody will smile and everybody will be happy about it. Ministry, you understand, can come and try to divide us. We don't have that time. As your peers, I serve everybody with the dedication, distinction. Always there. By the way, learn this from me. I never leave any piece of paper. My stuff is here on the table. I clear my table before I go home. That's the best way to work. You can ask these officers. And I do not have a special appointment schedule for HODs. They can also confirm that anytime they want to see me, even if I have a visitor, I will see them.